I'm a huge fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, and I recently seen the movies. Now, after watching the movies, I have to say my honest opinion on it is extremely disappointed, not gonna lie. But at least it performed decently, and hell, I mean, at least we even got a movie, I guess. There's a lot of things that left an unsavorable feeling in my mouth, but even with that being said, I feel like the movie compromised and hurt a lot of the artistic integrity of what the original Five Nights at Freddy's was. I believe Five Nights at Freddy's original massive popularity wasn't built on the whole cute, quirky nature of the animatronics. It was more of a uncomfortable, like uncanny-esque atmosphere. And honestly, having an R rating for the movie would have done it a lot more wonders, because it wouldn't mean more blood just for the sake of more blood. It would have given a movie a whole lot more room to respect the original lore and deliver the same feelings that the game was able to portray, if not better even, since we were watching the story unfold. And since we've all come to the conclusion on the original ending of it, this would have been a perfect send-off to the series before starting its new era. One of my second points that I hate about the movie not being rated R is it has softened violence, which leads to a weakened impact in my opinion. And for example, the deaths is just weaker as a whole in the movies than they were in the game. And in most horror movies, violence or like the deaths or the scenes where we're watching somebody die, we're watching it happen, we're seeing the responses to it, how the people react, and you're feeling uncomfortable and kind of scared, and I'm just feeling sorry for the victim the whole time. Meanwhile, in the PG-13 movie, it kind of happens off screen. Like, I don't know if this is just me, but it's kind of like an immersion breaker for me, where it feels like, oh yeah, this is for kids, can't show this here, we can still imply it. And that takes away from a lot of scenes. For example, like this fight scene right here. We could have had a close-up or like a scene of Freddy with like his face all bloody, like how most of the fan arts portray Freddy in a lot of these different things. But instead we get this. And it's also pretty bad because a lot of the important story parts to Five Nights at Freddy's depends on a lot of these deaths. They're supposed to feel shocking, cold, and tragic, but softening these deaths with like a quick cutaway that's more age appropriate for the audience removes a lot of the actual emotional weight and gravity of what really happened. You know, William was genuinely killing kids. He wasn't just a cartoon villain. He was a genuine monster. He's supposed to feel like an actual threat, and you should feel scared when he's on screen, but his presence genuinely just doesn't feel threatening at all. He just seems like a weirdo. We never have to see just how like damaging he really was. For the third part, FNaF was supposed to be more uncanny, and the original FNaF series was scary because not because of just the jump scares, but it was the way the animatronics moved, how lifeless they look, how old and worn down, and seeing them like move uncannily like you're not supposed to be, but they're still doing it. It was creepy seeing a lot of their actions, a lot of their movements and shit. You know, it's easy to meme about it and joke about it now, but back when this first came out, it was one of the most scariest things that we've had in like a long time in media. There wasn't a lot of things like this, and it's crazy because these are just ghosts, which we've had a lot of. FNaF had made the whole ghost scare a lot more different and unique. FNaF was originally, it was supposed to be uncanny. The original FNaF was uncanny. That's why the whole setting and theme takes place where it does. We could have had like a whole retro analog type of horror vibe with the movies. But instead we didn't get that. I would have loved to see the animatronics slowly like turn, look at the camera, but not in like a goofy way, but just like uncannily do it, and then slowly move or peek out, and then like randomly they're just like randomly moving across and teleporting across the locations and stuff. But again, because of the PG-13 limitations that the movies was forced to deal with, they had to keep some scenes settled down, and they couldn't like push the atmosphere too much because you don't want to frighten the children. You don't want the children to get scared during a horror movie. And even then, now that I've talked about some other stuff, but unironically, the biggest casualty to that movie's rating being so low is the character of William Afton. He isn't just a normal cartoon villain. He's supposed to be a sadistic, cringy, weirdo serial killer.
How could you do that to your own father? I hate you. I've always hated you. I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to make it hurt. Oh, how I miss the way you used to cry when I screamed at you. It's going to get so much worse. and I'm going to find you. And I'll give you a real reason to cry.
Who experiments on children and built machines designed for abduction and torture. You know, you can't really capture how dark and twisted he is. You can't capture his calculative nature while staying strictly within a PG-13 safety rails. You can't capture some of the things he did, like how, for example, in the games, he came up behind Charlie and murdered her outside of the pizzeria while she was looking in, watching everybody celebrate her birthday. And even then, his death is like drastically worse in the movies than it was in the actual games. The games stuff was violent, brutal, and even though we didn't see it like extremely bad or bloody, I mean, because Scott didn't even know how to make stuff like that, we got the memo of what was supposed to be going on. We were supposed to see it. But in the movies, it feels a lot less satisfying. And like he was okay with dying, knowing he was going to become something better.
I always come back.
But in the games, that didn't happen. In the games, he was just scared for his life. It was satisfying to see him die. It was just an unfortunate tragedy that he kept coming back. But in the movie, he even says he always comes back. Not even because he earned the title to say something like that, but just because he said it in the games. And they had to pull back on a lot of stuff, which basically ruined a lot of the lore and story of what FNaF and Five Nights at Freddy's was. And another unfortunate part about Springtrap is that his character has gore baked into it that we just won't be able to see. You know, we can't see like the guts hanging out from him. Like obviously Scott didn't know how to do it back then, but we could have had a realistic, really scary version of Springtrap now, where the actual body parts were like accurate and you could see the blood and guts and stuff hanging out of his character. I mean, that's literally part of his character. It's not like I'm being too extra or edgy. That's literally Springtrap. I don't believe the movie can do Springtrap good if they don't have these elements, which they can't because it's PG-13. One of the final points about this whole thing is that FNaF became less about like a horror franchise and more about cute mascots. And like the Pillow Fort scene was extremely cute and I didn't mind it, but it's supposed to be realistically super dark and gritty, but even the movies couldn't even lean into that there. And it didn't feel uncanny watching these murder robots play with this child. It felt kind of wholesome, and they chose to keep the wholesome moments over actual important scene moments. Like they changed how, for example, they changed his death from him dying by Freddy during the bite of 83 to him getting kidnapped. Some of the most important moments in the game we will never see brought to the big screens unless they remake it, just because they wanted to like shell out and hold back on the restrictions of the horror. And, like a lot of these characters are genuine gaming icons, but now it's been so memed about and joked about now that it's hard to see most of these characters as even remotely scary, even though that's genuinely what they are. Now I know that the reality of business kind of matters a lot more, and PG-13 movies would make a lot more money than most rated R movies would, and then it's Five Nights at Freddy's. It's one of the most popular franchises ever, so realistically it makes sense that it turned out this way. But it's just really unfortunate that I feel like it's just really unfortunate choosing the commercial safety and success over artistic integrity. A rated R FNaF movie would have been so much better, not even just scarier. It would have been a lot more impactful. It would have been like the ultimate tribute to the dark and tragic lore that built up the entire universe. It could have been the final conclusion point to what Scott's been working on. And since he wanted to retire, this would have been like a perfect parting gift. But those are just my opinions. Let me know what you think about them. If you like what I had to say, you guys should subscribe. If you agree with what I had to say, comment down why or what you disagree on, and let me know your opinions and thoughts. Drop a like on this video, please, and please help me get to 1,000 subs by the end of this year. Thank you.